Hey, it's David with No Chaser. Got a new camera, no line, not that weird dotted line from all the other videos. But today I'm going to talk about something that's a topic of sorts, but also just kind of a personal sort of diary type entry into this series I'm doing, and that's it's going through a bit of a rough patch. Just nothing in particular happening with my life, nothing really awful, slight depression, but manageable. That's one thing in recovery. I feel better because everything feels like it's doable, it's manageable. I can get through this, but just kind of in a low point, energy's low. That can really affect a person, and I know it did with me. I was just kind of like felt like I was sleepwalking through some of the days, through like things like exercising or being at meetings or talking with friends. It was just kind of more of a chore. And just like the insidious nature of addiction, alcoholism, whatever, I had this 3-day span where it just kind of hit me. I mean, it didn't, sorry, I shouldn't say it just hit me. It was just this slow kind of wave of just a flip to where I was thinking about drinking. And, that's the thing, like, honestly, in recovery, it kind of breaks off into two sort of, like, struggles, especially, like, kind of early or moderately early in recovery. There's kind of two sort of struggles where there's just stress or just, like, the internal sort of emotional feelings. I mean, it could be boredom, it could be, like, sadness, or it could just be anger, or just, like I said, just outside pressure that you feel, and you just want to relieve it, and you remember the way that you used to relieve it with drugs or alcohol. There's that, and then there's the other type, which is just, I mean, purely on the craving of the substance, basically, where it's obsession, it's, one of those, like, those real, almost like physical cravings, those just kind of things that hit you, and I mean, it doesn't really have to do with anything so much emotional. It can become that way, but it's just really just that pure base of, like, just the desire to do something, and again, the obsession, the compulsion, all that stuff. And I know in times where I had relapsed is when those two worlds met, where I was kind of like primed in this way to this kind of melancholy or just a sort of depressive apathy at times, where I wasn't getting enjoyment or interest out of things, and it was just times were tough, but I was like, I can get through this, I'm fine. Like, I don't feel like drinking or anything like that. And then when I was in that state and I couldn't quite get myself out of it, then the obsession or just whatever it is, spurned on by, I don't know, nothing really triggering or anything. For me, it just I felt hints of it, and I kind of just did what I normally did. I would talk about it at meetings, just make some jokes about it. But like I would bring it up with levity and brevity. I would be like, I'm seriously feeling this way, but also, just being casual. I try not to think of these things. I try not to talk about it like it's the end of the world, because then I might internalize that and feel that way, unless it is like very serious. And it started getting to this point where it was feeling like serious. Like these things were like my mind was starting to step out of its normal parameters I've said about like what is acceptable to think about. Like, okay, you can think about just be like, man, this day sucks, or I wish I could just quit for the rest of the day, or this person's annoying, I wish this person was out of my life, or just kind of those things. Those are acceptable in my mind, because that's just things that come in life. The unacceptable is like, man, I wish I could just get off work now and drink. And that, I mean, when I say acceptable, you don't control your thoughts. You don't control impulses and compulsions and things like that. But I mean acceptable to like entertain them, or to give even 1 second of like thought to them. I try not to do it with the negative ones anyway, because that's just a bad habit. But like when the ones like that include drinking, and it could be in your case getting high, I have to like just cut those off at the pass, and I have to really just work for some sort of distraction. But this thing was what was kind of happening to me over this like span of almost a week, or I mean, maybe it was a little bit longer, but it wasn't thorough throughout. It would just be like sometimes at night, sometimes in the morning, where what it felt like is that if you ever like on a computer and you like control delete, and there's like the task manager, and you can like see all these programs that are running in the background. You're like, I didn't know all that stuff was running. Like even stuff like with your phone, where you just see all these background apps are running. What it feels like is that with just the slow build of like, of just obsession, just a hum of craving, not like really supercharged, just kind of like impulsive thoughts. And just all this stuff, it just felt like it was just kind of running in the background. And I was like becoming more aware of it. And I got to this crossroads where yesterday where I really, I got out of a meeting and the meeting was like fine and everything, but I couldn't even focus. The obsession was still, it was just there. And that was the thing about like that obsession and that kind of just like long-term craving. And I call it long-term in the sense of that cravings normally last, I mean, they can last moments or like there's some scientific thing that says they last 15 minutes, whatever. This is just one that stays in the back of my mind for a certain amount of time. And it was just staying there. And it was starting to like just distract me. I was doing all these things to just like to distract myself from it or just to feel better. Or I tried meditating to like really, focus on the thought and be aware of it and try to process it that way. And it just hung around. It was just stuck like gum under the desk to the back of my head where it was there and it was starting to like get more palpable. And it was like starting to wear these things where I was trying to nip it at the bud when I had these thoughts and it kept being there. And I kind of told some people, I'm like, man, these are a little bit dicey right now, and it started to do less with jokes like, haha, I'm just thinking about living under a bridge again. And it was like, I'm really like bothered by this. And, I just got to this point where I was just walking around. Like last night, I was just like walking around and I was like, getting scared. And it's weird because I'm scared of my own volition. Like, this is just me here. No one's holding a gun to my head. No one's pushing me to do anything. Like, it's just me walking around just scared of what I do, like, myself. And I just tried talking with some people, like, just to get out of my head. I could have been more forthright in what was going on inside. And I'm not doing this perfectly or anything. But it was scary. And I started, like, I could tell the obsession started to merge with the other thing. It was pushing these thoughts of, like, man, like, life doesn't seem that worth it, and who cares about all these future plans you had and all these things you were looking forward to, you've been disappointed, just all this negative talk. And it was just this flow of stream, and it was so strange because there was a part of me like evaluating this. I was like, David, this is bullshit, this is just like the addictive part of the mind, or like it's telling you this, you care about your life, like this is just bullshit, you just but it became just convincing because it was just hanging around there. And honestly, I was getting worn down, and I just thought, like, this morning, I sat there and I was like really on this edge of like, what's going on, man? How long is this gonna be here? I don't know. I never thought I'd say this out loud to myself, but I'm like, how long can I last through this? And I just took a couple deep breaths. I don't know even what I was doing. I was just in my bathroom, and I just like got down like kind of on my knees and kind of this like yoga type position, and I just like I don't know, didn't really pray to a god, but I was like, just this is gonna pass, man, right? This is just gonna pass. And I just kind of sat there with it, and I just had to keep telling myself, like, dude, it's not an option. And it was just so difficult, and all these things were going through my head. I was like, call someone. I was like, I don't really feel like calling that person. And the more and more I thought about it, I was just like starting to feel myself go crazy. It was that type of like crazy where like you can almost imagine yourself watching yourself being like, he's acting like a real weirdo. And, I just let stuff kind of go. I just let it kind of ease out, and I just talked to some people, and I feel a lot better. I'm not like super cured, but man, I could feel it starting to fade when I just got to that full acceptance of like, no, you're not drinking. We have to move on from this. This didn't happen at once. I kept telling myself that, and it just like all things, it just passed. But the reason I tell this story is that this is all stuff that I know, but it's just harder to do. And that's just kind of what this story is about, like all this crap I say I put into practice. I say I'm getting better because I'm taking my own advice for once, and it's difficult, man. Honestly, I'll just say it's hard as fuck. It's just difficult now, and I'm not like completely out of it, but I'm mostly, it feels like. But I'm just here to say, like, all this stuff I say, like, I'm going through it myself, and it's hard. It's easier to talk about, like, in retrospect, but during the moment, it felt real, and I just want to say I wish you guys all the best. I truly do in your struggle and trying to do this thing, because it's tough, and I feel that, and I hope you all be well.